good people, how are you? I hope I find you well wherever you are. Right, I've got some very serious breaking news here, and I hope you've got your coffees, you've got your drinks, sit back, relax, and let's delve right into this while I explain everything to you. A lot of people have got questions, but they cannot find answers to the questions. A lot of questions that are flying all over, but you don't even know where to lay your hands to get the correct information. It seems as if every person reporting, be it on the social media or within our very own newspaper lines, they are failing to actually give us the information that we all need. But what do I say today? Sit back, relax, listen to this. I've got information that will transform you. People have got questions, but they don't know where to find the answers. A lot of sources are providing different information, leaving so many people now confused about the situation from our very own native nation of Zimbabwe. But I want you to trust me today. If you've never trusted me, I want you to trust me, regardless of which party you are affiliated to or which side of the two divide of the ZANU-PF you might be sitting on. Information that I'm carrying today is the correct information and the most sensitive information you can ever get to hear. Why did I say let me bring it out myself? So that we don't risk the lives of many people, because you'll be questioned as to how you managed to get this information. But trust me, this is correct, pure information that will give you a correct standpoint and also clear questions that you might be having. Here are some of the questions that people have but are failing to find answers. Number one, who is Geza? I'm going to be answering that. What's the position of Geza? Has he failed in his drive to oust the sitting president? Because don't forget, he is the commander-in-chief of the M31 movement, as people refer to it. Number two, why is General Chiwengwa quiet when all these things are happening? Remember, the name that's being touted is his name, but you have never heard him speak openly to make people understand that for sure he is raring to go to be the person that's going to be replacing the sitting president, if according to all that is being said by Geza is true. Then thirdly, what is the position of the military? That's another very big question that people are having, but you'll never find an answer for that. But on here now today, I've got an answer for you. Very solid answer that will make you understand who the military are in this whole game. What is the position of the business incumbents within the whole political structure? There are some people who are funding from behind the scenes, be it the sitting where it has been referred now, and where it has been referred and is now known to many as Rigananda. Who are they? And at the very same time, what's their position in all this trouble? And what is it that they are doing to try and make sure that their investments are preserved? Because it looks as if no one is quite so sure about what's happening. Another question that might be coming is, what is the position of Nelson Chamisa? As much as it's an in-house divide within the ZANU-PF, where does this leave Nelson Chamisa? You are hearing some gossips that he's about to form a political party. At the very same time, you look at the tweets that he throws out there. He speaks in a hidden language to try and express his current position. Don't forget he said he is out of politics at the moment. Don't forget I said at the moment. Is he going to be making a comeback? I've got an answer to that as well. All has been explained in detail. And I'm not talking about sources from outside, but I'm talking about the real players, of which it's going to be very interesting. Can we have a Traore in Zimbabwe, a young guy from the military, to topple the whole system and seize power and then start to drive, as we are seeing in Burkina Faso? All this I've got answers for. Everything has been provided. When I'm giving you these questions, it's because I have asked these questions to try and get the correct position so that we don't continue to get confusion going around in circles. Who is JOC, the Joint Operational Command? You need to understand who JOC is. When you do understand, I'll explain to you who JOC is as we go, this is another question that you need to be asking yourself. Once you know who Jock is, then you've got to know the next steps that's going to be taken in this friction squeeze for power. Continue to stay tuned. At the very same time, we at this point in time have a transitional government? Because you hear some people like Professor Ibo Mandaza, Trevor Ngule, they are all talking about a transitional government. But what does it take for a transitional government to be going? And what are the chances of a transitional government in Zimbabwe? Before I finally ask another one, is there a possibility of a coup in Zimbabwe? Because the sitting president is being challenged by a lot of people now who are siding with Geza. And this has shown that there is cracks within the ZANU-PF. What are the chances of coup in Zimbabwe? Why now is the talk changed? If you get to look at it very closely, the 2030 mantra was being touted loudly and very heavily by many people that supported the sitting president. 2030 running Chipo, 2030 Ndege Chipo. It had become the mantra, the shouting mantra for every person who was backing the sitting president. But all of a sudden, there seemed to be a twist or a turnover from the talk of the 2030 mantra to let him finish his second term. Have we downgraded from the 2030 mantra to ask him to get him to finish his 2 terms? Which is which? 2030 mantra or having him to finish his 2 terms? In that discussion, in that explanation, we are going to be hearing the position of certain people that have been touted within the ZANU-PF. People like Kuda Tagwire. The names will be coming out as I'll be giving you information as has been given to me. After being given all the information, I just said I'll pray about it. Remember, why am I getting this information? I carry the dream that's happening right now as reflected on this video. It might not have made sense to a lot of people, but those that have known me for years know that when I put out the dreams, you have got to follow them. Take note of them because they are very transformational. Let's go right into detail. So before I explain to people the current position and what has been discussed, there's something very sensitive that has happened. Remember, the sitting president, Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, is the chief army commander, is the chief army general commander of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. But the meeting that took place yesterday, he was not involved. Neither was he very much aware of it. What does this tell about the sitting president? And what does this tell about the friction that's going on between the divide within the ZANU-PF? What I want people to understand, there is what we call JOC. JOC is known as the Joint Operations Command. This has been there from the time of Ian Smith in Rhodesia until it is actually continued during the time and tenure of the late former president of Zimbabwe, Gabriel Robert Mugabe. So what happened in 2009, this I'm well informed of, and this I am well aware of. What happened after the 2008 elections, and there was friction between ZANU-PF and the MDC under the late Morgan Tsvangirai, seeing to it that power has been challenged, and some people wanted to give in to say, if we have been defeated by MDC, we should then simply hand over power. It did not go down well with Mugabe. Remember, by then, the sitting president, Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, was not the president, but it was the late Robert Gabriel Mugabe. It did not sit well with Robert Gabriel Mugabe because you could tell that there is infiltration in some people who seem to be selling out the struggle, according to how they have set the JOC, the Joint Operation Command. So Mugabe then went on to say, if there be this challenge, we might as well now start to create a new group, which he wanted to be tabled or discussed or argued within the parliament by move of parliament voting, to say, let's replace the JOC with what we call the National Security and Strategy. It was a way of Mugabe trying to remove all the infiltration that he felt had actually entered within the security systems. Who are members of the JOC. Remember, this was implemented in 2009, and at the end of it, it was dissolved after Morgan Tsvangirai and MDC were pressing to say they also needed to have an influence within the NSC. And it also meant the NSC was now supposed to be a very independent group which does not have to interfere or mingle with the politics of Zimbabwe, but were just supposed to be set for the national security of the country. Right, who were the members, or who are the members of JOC? JOC comprises of the Zimbabwe Republic Police, the Air Force of Zimbabwe, at the very same time, the Zimbabwe National Army, and we talk about the prisons and correctional services, as well as the Central Intelligence Organization. When it was formed, the people that were sitting there was the retired General Constantine Chiwenga, who was representing the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. We also had the Zimbabwe National Army, which was being represented by Lieutenant General Philip Sibanda. Then we had the Air Force of Zimbabwe, which was represented by the late Air Marshal Perence Shiri. We had the Zimbabwe Republic Police, which was represented by the out-of-country and outstayed Augustine Chuhuri, Commissioner Augustine Chuhuri. And at the prisons, we had the late Paradzai Zimondi, who was the retired Major General as well. We also had in the CIO, the late Hepton Bonyongwe. These were the people that were sitting at the JOC. And JOC was the one that was supposed to define and determine who runs the country. Now with this position, it means to say there is no party that will come into power unless approved of by JOC. This statement, you might not understand it, but let me make it resonate to you. If you have heard through the command structures and the replacements by the sitting commanding officers, you heard them say, we will never salute to anyone who does not have any war credentials. Who said that? That's JOC. It was not the military. That is JOC. What does it mean to people? That's why I kept telling people that it's not easy for opposition to come into power. You just need to be patriotic. You can argue, you can form whatever, you can form MDC, you can form Triple C, you can form the Blue Movement, you can form the next party that you're trying to form. For as long as JOC is sitting, the statement remains the same. They will never salute to any person without war credentials. Having enlightened you to this, let me go straight into the meeting that took place yesterday at the Army Barracks. And this will blow your mind to know the position of the country, the position of every player within this tussle for power. So in 2009, there was a temporal setup of the National Security and Strategy. This was dissolved after Morgan Tsvangirai had pushed very hard to say that he wanted a reformation within the security structure. Because he knew as long as the security structure is not reformed, they are still going to remain allegiant to the to ZANU-PF. And he knew without this, there's no way people are going to be good. There's no change that's going to be imminent in Zimbabwe. Now, with that little information that I've given you, let me go straight into what we need to know about the meeting that took place privately yesterday within Morgan Tsvangirai demanded security structure reformation, or what we call the security sector reformation, which was demanded by Morgan Tsvangirai, was never to be. So in late 2009, that was demolished. And so the NSC did not stand. And we are back again to JOC operating system. Listen, let's get information. We now say that the army should start to serve the people and not the politicians. This was the discussion that was a bit heated until people started to find a common ground. This was at the barracks yesterday. Start to serve the people and protect the Constitution. They were never on the same page until a later time when they realized that reality has to set in Otherwise, we are heading for disaster, because elimination is not stopping, and elimination is going at a very high rate. So for that reason, they all ended up opening on the same page to say, let's protect the Constitution and let's protect the people. Let's serve the people and protect the Constitution rather than protecting the politicians. It led from here on. So the Zimbabwe Defense Forces has started withdrawing protection for the sitting president, Emmerson Mnangagwa. This is showing you that serious cracks are developing within the system, and the army now wants to be independent of the politicians. It is said, after hours of deliberation, they realized and concluded that the sitting president is no longer protecting the interests of Zimbabweans, and they've started to take away the shielding to protect him from the international, the local, and the national. The army have decided that they start to pull away the umbrella and stop shielding the president from things that have been happening. What led to all this? It was, first and foremost, the V11s that they managed to get hold of. It did not match with the ZEC's announced results, and this has opened a whole can of worms, and challenges to protect it anymore have been exposed. And now this makes every person vulnerable, and the military starting to be in charge. It has also been cited that the sitting president has been promoting his own loyals instead of the long-serving members within the military. And this did not go down well with the military in discussion. Remember, Jock was there, and most of them voted in agreement to what was said. That even the tenders were being given to people who don't have any war credentials, and none were given to the military. It means to say business was being given to the military, but business was being taken away from the military and being given to the sitting president's cronies, as was highlighted by Geza. I haven't explained to you who Geza is as of now, but at the moment, stay tuned as I explain more. Remember, the regional ploy that has been there with the SADC coming down to Zimbabwe, it has given Zimbabwe a very bad reputation, and the military have decided to protect the reputation of the country. And at the very same time, CDS and JOC have set to agree that they need to put value to the nation so that we be recognized internationally, locally, and across the board. The military has agreed on three stages of withdrawal, and this is how they stand. There's number one, there's going to be full media withdrawal. They are no longer going to be praising anything to do with the sitting president. Media has been told to stop that. Secondly, no more photos of any generals attending any rallies for any party, and it has been directed to be stopped with immediate effect. At the very same time, MPs who were linked to the impeachment or the impending impeachment have all had their security withdrawn. So there's no more police or any member of the state to give them protection. Everyone has to be standing for themselves. It can actually point to one thing, that disaster is about to strike. Number three, there is no more link to any ZANU-PF aligned programs by the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. Any program that ZANU-PF is putting up now, the ZDF is no longer interested in, is no longer going to be a part and parcel of it. We move on to the next one. There's been withdrawal by the Zimbabwean Defense Forces for all the military briefings that used to go first through the Chief Army Commander, the sitting president, Emmerson Mnangagwa. It's no longer like that. The situation has transcended. The situation has transformed. Everything has been changed. So there's no more full military briefing to the sitting president, E.D. Mnangagwa. Meaning to say, some of the things are now going to be discussed without him being consulted. Meaning to say, also, some of the decisions are going to be reached without consulting with him. That automatically tells you that his powers have been eliminated, if not, have been cut or reduced. Where does this leave the sitting president? And what's the relationship now between the sitting president and the military. Listen to this. At the removal of Mugabe, it was said, we removed Mugabe so that we protect the citizens from his rule. And in the process, they protected the sitting president, Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, so that he would lead the transition to get people to be connected back with the Zimbabwe Defense Forces and to get the nation to be one again as it used to be. But in the process, they are feeling they are being betrayed. And for that reason, they are saying enough is enough. Time up. No more protection of the sitting, but there's got to be all the protection for the constitution. All the things that were being posted, praising or being credited to the sitting president, like the Trabablas interchange and all that stuff, it has been stopped for everything to be credited to him as if he's the one who was paying it using his own pocket money. But these are national programs, which they also still want to say have been overvalued, and that's also bringing a lot of challenges because they've taken their time to inquire from outside, from other outside companies, how much it would cost for the very same projects, and they saw that the prices were not only inflated, but were super inflated, if not highly inflated, which has left them questioning how this has all been happening without them coming together to stop it. Because most of these assignments and most of these projects, if not most of these business contracts, were either supposed to be for the Zimbabwe Defense Forces or for the high top generals. But the people that have come close to the president and bargained from them, who are his own allies, are the ones that have brought this challenge. No wonder why you see at this point in time, the ZDF is coming out of the shell and stopping to protect the president and his allies, but instead starting to protect the constitution of Zimbabwe and the people. So when the army was in discussion, there was a question that was raised. So the position that you as the army has taken, does it support impeachment? Then they said, this was the answer that was given in that meeting. We will not support impeachment, but at the very same time, we will not stand to stop impeachment if it is pushed forward by the people. That statement alone is a sign to show you that the sitting president no longer has got the protection that he used to have. It's actually showing the nakedness in protection if you hear the generals giving such an answer that we are not going to interfere. At the very same time, we are not going. So what does this mean? It means to say MPs can now act without the fear of the military backlash. At the very same time, if people are to take it up for marching to demonstrate, there's not going to be any impediment by any member of the JOC, by any member of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. Police are not going to interfere. So it leaves the ground very open. And with people being so frustrated, it means to say the sitting president is now vulnerable, especially after this meeting. Wave 2 now from here. So with all this having been said, it means to say ZEC now are no longer afraid to leak the documents pertaining the V11s for the 2023 elections. It's no secret that things were tampered around with, but the military didn't know that it was as bad as it is right now. Henceforth, you start to hear that Nelson Chamisa now wants to form a political party because he knows information has been leaked to him before this meeting. At the very same time, the business elites have also started to switch camps. Those who were aligning with the sitting president, some have started to jump boat to go onto the vice president camp, the M31 movement camp, because they are seeing that without the military giving protection, they are going to become very vulnerable. There are some who have been involved in these businesses, but also wanted things to be as straightforward as ever. Then there are some who are trying to continue to take advantage by supporting the 2030 mantra. Those are the most vulnerable. I'm not fearing to say the weak notifiers, they are going to be in serious trouble, especially with the withdrawal of the military. Now, with all this having been said, what do you think? is the president's biggest fear as of now. The president's biggest fear, as I've been told, is the military coming to do what we call a live news, to declare neutrality to the whole situation. It will make him very vulnerable because all his protection has been coming from the ZDF. And if they are to take their hands off and not give him any protection, things are not looking good. If you look at his allies and his cronies, they have started to divert their funds offshore because they can already tell the direction of the wind, that things are not looking good at all. It's not a battle in physical of the military against the sitting president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, but it is a battle of reality coming into manifestation to say if things are done properly, then certain people are going to become very vulnerable. And let's see where the nation is heading. More information tells me. So where does General Chiwenga stand in all this? In this boardroom meeting that took place within the barracks, the retired General Constantine Chiwenga was not present. Neither has he stood to defend the sitting president. So what does he tell about his ambition of taking over as the next president, as being touted by people like Geza? Here is his statement, as was declared by the inside information or inside sources. This is what General Chiwenga said. General Chiwenga, as you can see, he has been quiet and never commented. What does this tell? It means to say he has been taking position to be clean, ready if impeachment does take place. If people are to vote, he wants to be the most likely candidate to be taking over because he doesn't have any ghost on his back in regards to this battle that's before us. So henceforth, he hasn't commented whether he's connected to Geza, whether he's connected to the Nyokaima Bunus who are arrested. He never, and has kept quiet and clean sheets. Even if you look at his missus, she's just doing what we call the wife duties of the vice president as the second vice lady, engaging with people. They are just doing everything that brightens their CV to the nation for them to be the next possible candidates for presidents. What's your take on this? Hear me. Right. With the army stepping back, what does this tell? It means to say politicians and now have got the right to move freely without the fear of anyone. At the very same time, people have got the right to be asking questions, demanding answers. Wow. It means also to say the international community is going to be taking the impeachment talk very seriously, and Zimbabwe is no longer being put on the joke countries, but they are now going to be considered a very serious country because of the position that the military has taken. So strategic leaders are now giving the power to make sure that they position themselves to push for things like the impeachment. The students are now going to be motivated, if not encouraged, to be taking it to the street to express their dismay with the sitting and the current position of the country. Everyone is now being given the liberty to be on the streets and to express themselves without the fear or the backlash of the military. Where to from here? So if the military withdraws and is not standing in the way, who now is? It means to say people have got the freedom to express themselves without being pressured by anyone. I'm well informed there's been a push now to institute a law that will deal with people who do the whistleblowing of information to the nation, to the nation, so that it unsettles the country. But the Zimbabwe Defense Forces is not taking anything for jokes. They want the people to be very free to express themselves. The military wants people to freely express themselves. And if anything is done to the people, the military is not prepared to hold back, but they are going to intervene and make sure that they are going to intervene and interfere to make sure that people are at liberty to express themselves because they believe they are there to save the people and protect the national interests. No button is supposed to be pressed against the people because the military has begged off, leaving it now to the citizens and the MPs to do the lead in taking the discussions on the way forward. With this decision, which is a very critical decision, to the nation of Zimbabwe. The president is out of time, and also above all, he's out of the military defense. Wow, where does this take the nation to now from here? Look at the twist, look at the turn. It's all because the ZDF has decided to do the right thing for the nation and protect the constitution and the electorate. So basically what the military say is, to the people of Zimbabwe, no more silence, no more fear. You've got our protection. They are not interfering, but they've just taken themselves out of the equation of favoritism. They want to be neutral as they are meant to be. And this is going to be a very big challenge to the sitting president. I was so flabbergasted when I was told about this. I sat down and had a serious think about it. Then I realized we have got a big challenge in our country. I don't know what the sitting president is thinking of right now, because all that he's been doing, he knew that he had the backing of the ZDF, because remember, he's the chief commander of the ZDF. But at this point in time, the ZDF seem to have taken their correct position and are no longer ready to be given any hand feeds or kickbacks. They want to do the job professionally so that they get recognition from within the country, countries within the SADC, countries within the AU, countries within the EU, and above all the other international connections that will be observing what's happening in the nation of Zimbabwe. We are geared for the next move of a political challenge in Zimbabwe. Where do you think we're going to be going as a nation? Let me give it to you in detail in part 2 of this explanation. When I was asking my sources, why now? And what's the position of everyone, especially with the decision that has been made by the military? Number one, it explains the element of untouchability by the sitting president has been eliminated. It looks like he has been made to remain very vulnerable, especially with these actions. To those that have been strong, that have been standing strong, defending openly, it means to say they have to reconsider and start to be neutral. I was speaking to my sources and I said, right now, explain to me, because if this message is to be disseminated to the people, they'll be having questions and they'll be wanting us to answer these questions. Then they said, I can tell you and assure you, the military has taken its position and they have said enough is enough. There's no more fear amongst themselves or mistrust among themselves, because you could tell from the faces when we were having our meeting that everyone is now geared to go forward and make sure that the nation works for everyone, not for the few minority. Listen, to other people it could be good news. To other people it could be disturbing news, depending on which side you are. This nation is no longer going to be a nation of sides. It's going to be a nation of oneness, unit, and we all get to move forward together. What's your take to this? Wait as I explain more in detail in part 2 of this. It's given to me.